Releasing Strike Blast back in 2010, Droll and Bird has always been a decent card. Even on release, I'm pretty sure players back then was playing it in their decks, or at the very least in their side decks. I know back in the day, a lot of players told me, because I wasn't playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in 2010, they told me Droll wasn't really used that much. Droll was kind of like how it was 5 years ago, pre-pandemic, where you use it in some formats just to slow the opponent's decks down. However, you weren't winning every time if you drove the opponent. Fast forward to 2025, we have format after format now that sometimes Droll is just a game ender for you. Now, I remember back in the Snake Eye format, Droll didn't automatically win games, but it did help slow that deck down a lot, and it allowed you to win some games depending on the Snake Eye player's hand. Despite them having plays through Droll, you did kind of keep them off of their optimum board. But right now, if you Droll a deck, a lot of the times they can play through it and still set up a good enough board to just beat you. And some decks like Malice, for example, that's still powerful in the current metagame, don't even lose to Droll, and it's pretty much a brick when you open it against them, unless they open up some of the like the new ad Ignister support that they have. In my opinion, right now, Droll and Lockbird hurts decks that kind of need it to be gone to be relevant. So, for example, decks like White Forest and decks like Mermail. And that's not to say that those decks aren't relevant in the current metagame because they still do top despite Droll being in the metagame. But those decks have a higher ceiling to compete if the card Droll and Liebherr did not exist. Same goes for my pet deck, Heroes. Heroes is still a decent deck. I still keep in tune with the Heroes Facebook group on Facebook, and a lot of hero players do still go at least X1 at locals, maybe here and there with their hero deck, and despite the current metagame. But I'm pretty sure most of their losses was mainly due to getting hit with Droll. Heroes as a deck don't necessarily lose to Nibiru. A lot of people think that's the case, but it's not. If you know, you know. But yeah, man, Droll and Liebird seems to just hurt decks more than it kind of like helps the current metagame be a little more balanced. In my opinion, we should not be stuck in a metagame that requires silver bullets to just be relevant in order to for you to have some sort of healthy gameplay. Because the biggest thing is with cards like Droll and Liebird and even Artifact Lancia, for example, a lot of people want those cards banned because Malice players feel like, hey, they lance on me, I can't really play. And a lot of rival players and players who search a lot with their decks say, when I get drilled, I just can't play, I lose. And that is true. Like Droll being in the metagame kind of forces you to play mixed versions or decks or require every deck in the current metagame to have a way to play through Droll. And if they don't, they're cooked. And that's honestly that hurts a majority of the road decks in the current metagame, despite a few. Like if your deck can't play through Droll right now, you just might as well not play that deck because everyone's main decking three Drolls, hands down. They're not main decking three, they're side decking three. Like one of the arguments for keeping Droll around once again is because it keeps powerful decks in check. So, for example, Mitsu Raziel was the best deck pre this current metagame right now, the national season. I think it's more of a toss up between Mitsu Raziel, Vanquish Soul, and Malice because Vanquish Soul just won the European WCQ. And Vanquish Soul, as a player who plays Mitsu Raziel, Vanquish Soul is a really hard matchup. That deck is absurd. I wish it didn't come out this season. However, back to Droll. If your deck the the pre Vanquish Soul coming out, a lot of you kind of the format kind of requires you to play three Drolls to counter Mitsu Raziel because while Mitsu Raziel and even the Fiendsmith Raziel versions can play under Droll, they never really end on optimal board, so it gave other decks a fighting chance depending on their hand. But right now, when it comes to, and a lot of the times too with Mitsu Raziel, depending on their hand, if you roll them and they don't have follow up, they just automatically auto lose, and or they just end on Baguska Pass. In which, if you're playing any good deck, you can just play through that and just OTK on that turn. And also, too, while Droll is in the format, I think it gives the player who goes first a huge advantage versus the player who goes second. Because let's say, for example, if you're a player who goes first, you have Droll in your hand, and then your opponent is going second, and they don't open up Droll or no hand traps matter. If you set up your board in the current metagame and you play against a deck that hard loses the Droll, you just gave yourself a 99% to 100% win ratio. That is absurd. Now, a lot of people are going to say, play better decks, get better, Droll is fine. Droll should stay. It's not my fault Droll kills your shit deck. Droll keeps things balanced. But I'd argue Droll and even like cards like Artifact Lancia to an extension kind of like make the format a little more toxic than it needs to be. Because in my opinion, Yu-Gi-Oh, you guys already know my stance on Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole. It needs a reboot. We need block format. We need to a way to power down decks. So if you do open a card like Droll or Lancia, and those cards are existing in the metagame, if you Lancia the opponent or Droll the opponent, you don't automatically OTK them or guarantee your victory right there. But in the current metagame, 99% of the majority of the time, if you draw the opponent, it's GG no re. A lot of times too with draw, it's kind of like how Maxi was back in the day, where Maxi, if you top decked it mid game, it can help you in the grind game to stop your opponent from popping off because it'll give you an advantage, and the opponent's not going to do anything. They're going to pass, and you're just pretty much going to win it because you have Maxi and and they kind of force your opponent to either try to OTK you and give you a lot of draws, and if they can't do it, they're cooked, or just to pass their turn and hope that they can survive another turn. Right now with Droll, if you have Droll mid game and your opponent's trying to come back and they Droll you while you're trying to do stuff every time you try to do something, you're just like, damn, I can't do anything. Pass. And a lot of times Droll just turns the tie the game so much, or just if you open up double Droll you play against somebody, you drove them on their turn. You on your turn, you combo off, but you can't kill them, and you have another draw in your hand, and then you draw them again. You're guaranteeing victory, damn near 99% of the time. But once again, the other argument is people feel like draws should stay in the metagame because it keeps things balanced. I don't think so though. Like I said, I don't think so. I think draw just makes things more unfair, more imbalanced, and honestly, it's like Maxi, it's hitting to a point where it just needs to go away from the current metagame and just stay gone. In my opinion, they probably should make a retrained version of Droll that can only be activated on the opponent's turn. So that way, if it's kind of like the Mo Charmies, where it kind of made it more balanced. So if you're only playing a Ghost second deck, then you control the opponent. And I think that'll be a way better version of draw because at least this way, mid to late game, it's more of a brick. Some people may think that's still too much, but I'd argue it'll bring draw down to the power level of things like Mistaken Arrest because Mistaken Arrest is a really good card. It's really powerful, but you can't use it on the opponent's turn, effectively allowing them to build a board. Like right now, the reason why I think the main reason, if I haven't made it, if you guys haven't grasped why I think draw should be gone right now, is because Droll and like decks, right? The way decks are evolving and the way the Yu-Gi-Oh metagame is evolving, Droll don't 100% end the game. So considering Droll doesn't 100% end the game, and almost every deck can play through Droll, which kind of makes the card more balanced. Droll just hurts decks like Art Mages and decks like K9. It slows down decks like Crystron. It hurts heroes. It hurts a lot of decks that are getting new support. But once again, in my opinion, and the solution for everything is reboot Yu-Gi-Oh! So that way we can build the game again from the ground up and have more of those back and face, slower pace formats. Or it don't even have to be at a snail pace format, but more of a back and forth meta game. So that way people can enjoy the playing of the game and have fun versus getting tilted every time they're round one at locals or round one at a big event because the opponent hit them with a silver bullet. This video honestly is more about silver bullets than it is about Droll because I think all silver bullets are kind of bad. Even things like Dimensional Barrier, where when it was released, it was okay, but now it's just really absurd. And it shuts off decks. It hurts decks that it shouldn't hurt. And a lot of the times in the mirror match, it just gives the person who drew it a huge advantage. It takes the skill aspect away of the game, which is why I think it should be gone. Anyway, man, I'm a little tired, so I hope this video came out decent. Let me know what you guys think. Should Droll get banned? Let me know. Also, while you guys in the leave a like on the video and check the description down below for my channel sponsor. Be sure to check out the Discord. We're doing some awesome things over there, building up Rogue Army community. So yeah, man, it's your boy Rogue Hero, bringing you guys another discussion. Should Droll and Lockbird get banned? I really want to hear from you guys, and I'm signing out. Peace. See you guys in the next video.